I'm going to tell you three instances of the children of Abraham Owen Smoot. Now, Abraham Owen Smoot was the great-grandfather of my husband, Richard Smoot Nixon. That's where he gets the middle name. And in our marriage, I, of course, became interested in genealogy, and I became interested in the life of Abraham Owen Smoot. We served on the Smoot family organization for many years, and at one point they wanted to get a biography made of Abraham Owen Smoot, and they hired a BYU professor to write the history. And when he brought in what he had written as a preview of his writings, it wasn't what they wanted. They wanted a biography that had more feeling rather than scholastic. And so they turned to me and they said, "Would you write the history, Sister Nixon?" And so I accepted. And interesting, I had a blessing by Richard because I was struggling with my family and trying to put this all together. I'd sometimes get up at 2 and 3 in the morning, and I'd write. And I know that it wasn't me; it was the spirits from on the other side that were helping me as I wrote. But Richard gave me a blessing during this process, and in this blessing, it said that I had been foreordained to write this history, and it was kind of scary. But we did finish. Well, I was in the process of writing the big history, and in 1993, the family organization said, "Loretta, we've got to have a book, and we've got to have it now. So we'll take anything you've got right now." So it wasn't completed, but we put together a compilation of what I had written, and also some information from Douglas Smoot's work, and put together the history. And it is called Abraham Owen Smoot, A Testament of His Life. And that's an interesting thing because Doug came to me and told me what he wanted to name the book. And one day I was in my kitchen, and it came to me very forcibly that this was what it was to be called. Abraham Owen Smoot, A Testament of His Life. And it's not a biography, it's just a testament of his life, just excerpts from his life. But he was a great man. And one of his daughters, Agnes May Smoot, was Richard's grandmother. And this is what I want to explain to you, is that shortly after we were married, I remember vividly sitting on the end of the bed, and Mother Nixon, Richard's mother, Lyle Nixon, was on the bed with me, and she began to tell me the story of her mother, of how she had died and had come back to life. And so I want you to know that this is she was present at the time that her mother died, so this is a first-person witness that there is a spirit world, and that the church is true, and the existence of it is in the spirit world as well as here on earth. She proceeded to tell me that her mother's heart stopped. She'd had heart problems. Her mother's heart stopped, and then in order to get her heart going again, they injected, I believe it was adrenaline, directly into her heart. But Agnes May told later that when she was in the spirit world, her father approached her and said, May, she went by the name of May. Her name was Agnes May, but she went by May. And he said, May, it is not time for you to come. You turn right around and go back. And so she later told Lyle, she said, if it had been my mother, I would have stood and argued with her. But she said, I never argued with my father. He was a very authoritative man, and I think his family, the family respected him in this light. But she did have this experience, and after he told her to turn around and go back, why, she awoke and lived quite a few years after that. So another experience of one of his children was Brigham. Brigham Smoot was the youngest brother of Agnes May. And in 1891, he was called to serve a mission in Samoa. And as he was leaving, his mother said to him, Brigham, do not go near the water, because he couldn't swim. And so she was very concerned about him being in an area where there was so much water. Don't go near the water, Brigham. And so he ends up in Samoa, and shortly after his arrival, the habit of the elders was to go out on the reef. And take a bath. And his partner turned around to see where he was, and he was disappeared. And so he went back and found there was a large pool of water, and at the bottom of the pool was Brigham, and he was kneeling in an attitude of prayer at the bottom of this pool. And they dove down, brought him up, rolled him over barrels, did everything they could to get the water out of his lungs. And all this time, Brigham was watching them from above in his spirit. And he kept telling him, please bless me. Please give me a priesthood blessing. And they said, well, let's take him back and put him in his garments and give him a blessing. And so they took him back to the home. So he was dead for quite some time, and took him back and gave him a blessing, and his spirit came back into his body. He came home and fell in love with a beautiful girl by the name of Madge. I can't remember her last name. Her first name was, they called her Madge. And as a result, why none of his posterity are in the church. But they all are aware of the fact that he died when he was on this mission to Samoa. Now, what's interesting about Brigham Smoot, that after this experience, he became one of the first missionaries into Tonga. So the people in Tonga think very highly of Brigham and his companion, and they have a picture of Brigham and his companion taking the gospel to the king there in Tonga at the time of their mission in the 1890s. Now I'm going to tell you another story about Abraham Owen Smoot's children. The next one is about his son, Reed Smoot. Now, Reed Smoot was the senator from Utah for 32 years. And I have letters when he was called on a mission to England in the 1890s, and he's talking to his parents. He called his father Pa. He says, "Dear Pa," and he said, if I could only have a knowledge of the gospel like so many bear testimony of in these testimony meetings, I would give anything to know rather than just believe. And he was really struggling to gain a testimony of the gospel. And shortly thereafter, his father was having health problems, and so they sent him home early. And then in about 2 years, his mother passed away. In '93, his mother passed away. Before she passed away, she said to her children, she had all of her children around her, "Is there anything I can do for you before I die?" And Reed spoke up, and he said, "Oh, Mother, if I just had your testimony of the gospel, I would give anything." And she passed away. And at that time, he had built this beautiful home there on, I think it's second East. It's just right there close to the county complex, the Reed Smoot home. That you can't miss it. It's on the register. And and while he was there at home, and we just recently had a tour of the home by his great-grandson, Reed Smoot, who is a cinema photographer. We were doing a tour of the homes for one of Richard's nieces, and he came out, and he was kind enough to let us come into the home. And I asked him, I said, which fireplace was it that Agnes appeared? Or not Agnes, Annie appeared to read. And he said he thought it was the one in their bedroom. There were quite a few fireplaces in this beautiful home. But shortly after she passed away, she appeared to Reed and said, "Reed, the gospel is true." And I don't know what else she told her, but we know that she said that. And this is handed down through the Reed Smoot family, and all of Abraham Owen Smoot's children also have this in their records, that Annie came back to Reed and said, "Reed, the gospel is true." Ever since then, he became a stalwart in the church. He became an apostle, and then being a senator for 32 years. And I know that there are some things that some people don't feel that he did the right thing, like the Holly Act, but he was a wonderful man. Agnes, Richard's grandmother, Agnes May, was one of his favorites. And at one time he bought her a beautiful fur muff and laid it on the piano while she was playing the piano. And she asked him about the muff, and he says, "Oh, I bought this for you." And she was so thrilled. She prized that for many, many years. So I just wanted to give you this background, that out of Abraham Owen Smoot's family, he had about 21 children, but as far as I know, there was these 3 that had these near-death experiences, or they were visited by a personage from the other side, which is a testimony to me that the gospel is true, and that we need to be diligent and strong, and be studious in studying the scriptures and listening to the prophets. And I hope that this can be a testimony builder for others.